What's up, Millennium Hobby and Gundam Kitchen fans? Been laboring on this track setup for weeks, and it's finally at like 97% done. A little more soft bumpers need to be added. We've got most of the netting up around the track, if you can see it there. You can probably see it in that corner against the white wall. Just in case your car flies off, we got you covered. We just got to finish off the front with a little bit of lower netting. And the track will be done. Drives great. Couple little screws need to be mounted in a little deeper because they're sticking up, but otherwise than that, very smooth track. Drives a lot like an RCP track, surprisingly. And this is kind of just dreamed up in my head. And you can actually see that. Started with that picture there, and I think we came out pretty good. If you look at it from that picture to that is pretty much the exact track. Slight change in dimensions, but otherwise than that, we got it. If you would like to learn how this track was built, and here was a concept of the framing. Big shout out to Jim for all the help with that framing and building, and Dave helped out a lot too, and Paul. So thanks to those guys for helping out with the build. And now we have a beautiful track. Actually have our lap counter installed now. Still working out the bugs with the software. We have a basic lap counting software, but we want to get the little higher end Z rounds one working. So working out some bugs with that. We will have lap counters in with our next order. So just got this order in today. And about half of these are spoken for or going to be rental or demo cars. And if there's something specific you want, let me know. And I'm going to give you guys a crash course of Mini-z in this video, so you'll have an idea of what you might want to order, and what kind of style, and what level you want to come in at. We'll go through all that. But yeah, stay tuned for that part. But definitely, if you're interested in a certain body or style, let me know, and I'll try to get that on this order. I order from Kyosho America, so you can look at that same site, go on there, see the pricing. My prices are the same as their prices. Make sure you put the America part in, because if you go to regular Kyosho and look at Mini-z's, you're going to be seeing stuff that is not available in the U.S. Not that we won't get it, but it might have already came out there, or they just still have stock of it. So you definitely need to check out the American one, or you're going to be a little disappointed when, you know, like the newest thing came out in Japan and we don't get it for another 2 to 3 weeks. Just like the Gundams stuff, you know, drops in Japan earlier, and it takes like 2 to 3 weeks to make it across an ocean, so and to a hobby store, especially on the East Coast. So that's kind of how that rolls, but definitely check it out. We will also do an unboxing, because we have the more affordable Ready Set, which has a pretty plain GTR body on it, and they also make this in the McLaren, so that is available at $139. The main difference is the body style is a little plainer. The paint job's plain. It doesn't have a whole bunch of logoing on it like a lot of the other ones do. And they come with bushings instead of ball bearings. If you were buying the Ready Sets 4 or 5 years ago when we did them back at the old store, well, they were $10 cheaper. They went up $10, and now they come with ball bearings, which is actually a really great deal, because ball bearing set from Kyosho costs like $30. So you can get cheaper ones, but they're probably not as of quality. And while we're on that topic of quality, of course, people are asking, oh, can I get third party? Can I get knockoff? Can I get all this and that? I'm not selling the knockoff stuff. The only company I kind of respect in the third party game is PN Racing. When I did it before, I got some Atomic stuff. We tried out their cars. I was not impressed. Can their cars maybe beat a Mini-z that's at a lower price? Probably, but you got to know what you're doing. Those cars are very finicky out the box, and you have to really be able to tune RC to get them to where you need to get them. And I don't know in the long run would it be that much cheaper. So you're getting a great quality Kyosho, made in Japan. It's got that Japanese engineering in there. Everything's super precise, very reliable for what it is. RC cars are obviously going to be finicky. They get crashed up, things happen, but all in all, they are very tough, and every part can be replaced, and like 70% of the parts can be upgraded. I often say they're like miniature 1/10. Not exactly. They have less parts, which is actually a good thing because a lot of the third-party brands or knockoff brands try to imitate 1/10 scale in their suspensions and stuff like that. And it gets over complex, and in that size, it's not really necessary. So as long as you're running on a flat course, you should be good with the way these are set up, and just do the mods that Kyosho has available. Will get you some great performance. But it's all about trying to figure out that dynamic between tires and suspension and motor power and all kinds of things that add up to a really good handling car. Also, a lot of people will be like, oh, I need the fastest car in the world. It depends where you're racing. If you are racing on a huge track like in a gymnasium, yeah, speed's going to matter. Having like a 35 to 40 mile per hour Mini-z will probably help. It'll be hard as hell to control, but it will probably help you. But if you're racing in a more realistic place, like your basement or at a normal Hobbies store that doesn't have a massive track, then suspension's where it's at, speed kills, you need great suspension and handling. Out the box, I actually took one of these newer ones. One of the guys got a McLaren, and that's the best track time I had so far. A stock, straight out the box car. I don't think he even changed tires at the time. And that was my best lap time. So it beat my brushless car. It beat my all-wheel drive brushless car. It beat my modified Ready to Run from a couple years ago. So the sports edition. So it beat all those cars because these are actually tuned really well, and they seem to work really well on the track right out the box. Now, that's not to say that what I need to do is figure out the exact tuning to make my cars work better, because they're faster and technically they should be able to get to the handling abilities. But what they do say on these new boxes is better steering feel, and I totally agree with that. So they're using a new transmitter. That's one thing, and I don't know if that transmitter is what's making the difference or it's a new board, but somewhere on here it says, or at least on the descriptions on the website, it says better steering feel, and I agree with that. The Mini-Zs are sold in two different points of sale pretty much. You have the Ready Sets. Ready Sets will come with controller, the chassis, and a shell on it already. Shell will also come with the wheels. So that's your Ready Set. And then you have what they consider on their, if you go to the website, you'll see Pro. Pro is usually just a chassis sold by itself. That chassis by itself costs as much as its Ready Set. Those chassis usually don't run the cheaper controllers. So you're looking at controllers $100 plus. So you're already at $300, and shells run about $50, $50 to $60. So if you want to go into the Pro line, which will be either faster brush motors or brushless motors, then you are going to spend about minimally $150 more. Minimally. You will have a faster car. It won't necessarily handle any better. So that is your choice. And technically, usually people are investing in really nice radios, so they could be dropping $300, $400 on those radios. Within the two lines, Ready Set or Pro, there are several different types of cars. The main one for racing is rear-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive, right there. These handle amazingly well around the track. They're a lot of fun because you can power slide them, get the back end out a little bit. And they handle extremely well in the corners. There's also all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive comes in two variants. There's all-wheel drive drift, which comes with hard plastic tires. These plastic tires allow the car to easily slide on pretty much any surface that's smooth. Not that the regular cars won't spin donuts out, but these will actually get you sideways and slide. And then you have all-wheel drives that are built for racing. So an all-wheel drive runs on a different chassis than a rear-wheel drive. The all-wheel drives run on an MA chassis. So all their chassis start with M. The A means all-wheel drive. The rear-wheel drives run on a MR chassis. So you can see the difference here. Batteries are placed way lower. Batteries in this case are beside the motor. This, I believe, is an MA02, which most of the all-wheel drives currently are running. They just came out with an MA03, which actually has the batteries at the bottom and the motor at the top, so it probably has a little bit of different dynamic and feel. But that just came out. And actually, they have front-wheel drive cars which use that new setup. So the front-wheel drive is a MA03F. So the F represents front-wheel drive, and the 03, I guess, is like the addition of, or variant or version of, the all-wheel drive body. So in rear-wheel drive, most cars now are MR03, so they're on their third edition of the rear-wheel drive. In all-wheel drive, most cars available at the moment are MA02s, the second edition. And the new ones that are coming out, they have a Pro that's an MA03 in all-wheel drive, and then they have the MA03Fs, so those are the front-wheel drives. I will probably get one of the front-wheel drives in soon, so if people want to try that out, they can. But I'm sure they will handle differently, which will be fun. When it comes to racing, it'll be interesting. I still haven't fully figured this one out, but we will definitely have rear-wheel drive stock will be a class. So those will be ready sets. When I say stock, we're talking about ready sets. The highest upgrade you can do will probably be either the stock motor or the X-Speed motor, which is Kyosho's recommended motor for the ready sets. Motor-wise, that's as high as you'll be able to go in stock. You can do any suspension upgrades, any other upgrades you want to do to the car. Fair game. Motors need to stay stock. We'll discuss batteries. I don't see a reason you can't pick what kind of batteries you want, because some batteries are punchier than others. Some people might want that. Some people might want a smoother battery discharge. So I think batteries should be up to your choice. But we'll discuss this, and we'll figure it out by the time we're ready for a race, which will probably be about a month from now for our first race. Then we'll have a pro or modified class. So that would include your brushless motor rear-wheel drives, or your heavily modified rear-wheel drives that have, like, I don't know, anything in there. I mean, people get those PN parts and redo their boards and stuff like that. I have a guy, Matt, who has completely customized his and is running totally different controllers. So that will be in our pro class. And then I think we'll run probably like an open class too. And we might have to run that in like stock and pro. So that way you can have front wheel drive cars competing with rear wheel drive cars, and all wheel drive cars can all compete at the same time. We will probably also have, if we get enough people drifting, we'll also have like a drift competition, which will be a lot of fun. And I'm thinking, hopefully in the future, if people really get into the tuning, or not the tuning, but the making them look really good, we can have like a car show as well. And if, you know, this keeps picking up, we'll do buggies. So here's a buggy. Pretty cool. This is a ready set buggy. They also make them in brushless, which are probably insane. So that, we could probably run on this track with some jumps. But also in the spring, summertime, I want to get outside once a month for our races too. Pull out the RCP and build some really big tracks. Probably have to buy some more RCP, but we'll do some bigger setups too. And then we can, you know, have some buggy in, and we can have some bigger races of the rear wheel drive and all wheel drives and all that stuff. All right, let's look at the unboxing of the Corvette, which is a mid-motor wide. So we'll go over all that stuff. Now what's cool about this Corvette, it comes with a light kit. So a few of them have that. You can also buy them separately. Usually the wheel wells or the light buckets open up easily, and you can accommodate lights in most of the bodies. So light kit already installed. So that's nice. Looks like they use hot glue, which is a good idea, just to mount them in the right spot, because I used to always have problems with that where they would pull out. All right, for our first test, just using regular Amazon. These are not Amazon branded, but I copied these off of Amazon. So these last really long. They're not punchy, but they last really long. So these are great practice batteries. I wouldn't race with these, but definitely good for long practice sessions. A little scary the first time you put your batteries in because it's pretty tight. If you've never seen these before, you put your front end in first, then click your sides in, and it's the reverse for taking it out. So these are have bearings. We'll take a look at the GTR, which doesn't have the bearings. We'll see the difference, if we can feel any difference in speed. All right, so that should be set. Get a nice manual, a couple other extras in here, probably a whole parts guide. All right, so here's your conversion parts. So this is the narrow front end. It comes with the wide on there because it's a mid motor. The parts to move your rear suspension if you change your motor mounts, your pinion gears, and the motor movement, the motor parts to move it around to mesh up correctly. Bunch of cones for fun, your lug nut remover, and your pairing pin, and then our controller. So this is a new controller. Like I said, definitely get a little bit of a performance boost somewhere in either the servos or the new controller, and the handling is definitely sharper than the older sports editions. Let me go grab some batteries for the controller and we'll get started.
These things are awesome.
So if I had the lights working right, I think when you brake, they actually come on as brake lights.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's a switch or something in the harness.
I think it's on the remote. All right, so finally got the lights working right. So they were flashing straight out the box, and you had to look in the manual, but I'll save you some time. Channel, what does that say? Channel 4, CH4 on your controller. I don't know if that's going to come in, but this one right here, that controls the light. So if you go, see them flashing, controls the speed of how they flash all the way to slow. And if you turn it to the left, it gets super fast, and then all the way at the end it goes solid, because I guess it's flashing so fast you can't even see the flash anymore. So that's that one. I adjusted the steering down out the box. The steering was way to the right and it was a little too aggressive, so now I'm a little smoother. Let's see. So complete stock setup on 1100 milliamp batteries. definitely have a little more punch with some 800s. So I'm going to throw those new ones I got from Kyosho in there, see how those feel. We'll come back with that in a second. So now we're going to try out the new Speedhouse 800 high voltage, I guess that stands for. Says a minute to 750 milliamps. But I guess that means that it has an 800 high voltage discharge, I believe is how it works. So we will see how these work. Pretty sure we're going to get some nice results. Probably too fast to handle. And I think I'll throw it on the dyno right after this. See what we're getting for a stock speed of this one. Actually, we'll throw it on the dyno first. See how that works out. Making me look good. I know what I'm doing. Alright, so I just cracked open the GTR. And I just want to take a moment to appreciate the quality of these bodies. I mean, these you could just put on your shelf as display pieces. They have a lot of the same kind of detailing that die-cast cars do that people put on their shelves. And actually, Kyosho does make the same scale in die-cast. So these guys are very familiar with kind of doing this kind of quality. So we get this to focus. Look at that. The turn signal or reflector parts are there. Look at the lighting in there. The light wells look good. Grill has detail. Rims are pretty on point. They come with the slick tires, but you can get treaded tires, which I actually kind of like a lot. Have a little better grip. These rear lights look good. GTR symbol's nice and crisp. Mufflers look great. Like I was saying, I mean, if I was going to race this body, I'd probably just go and take these mirrors off because they're going to rub against the walls and stuff like that. But if you want to keep it showy and nice looking, leave them on. Let them break off as they break off. Or just put this up on the shelf and get yourself like a white shell that costs about half the price and paint it yourself. Or don't paint it. Even back here, look at the reflector right there. That's detail. You could have easily left that off. Let's check out the Corvette. So I'm wondering if when Chevrolet said they would do this, let them get their license, they were like, we want lights in ours. Because this is the only one right now I think comes with lights. In the rear wheel drive at least. So you got that nice handle there for the door. Back's looking pretty sharp. Got all the detail on there. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, the vents in the corner there. There. Nice chrome. Light wells look really good. You got the vents in the light, right by the light wells. All the logos are really sharp. Again, with the logos here. Very legible and sharp. Grills look amazing. Rims are on point. Let's see. Alright, took a little paint off of that mirror there. But it's pretty sturdy. It's still there. They have flex in them. They will give and pop out. You can have a couple chances to glue them back in before they're totally done. And if you check this out, they actually have like a little reflector thing in there too. reflective stickers, so you get a little bit of a mirror effect. Maybe hit that with the Molotov marker, be even better. Nice tint jobs on these. All of them come pretty much tinted. And there, here again, we have those front reflectors. But now it's the GTR's turn to hit the track. So we have no ball bearings on this one. That's a major difference. A little bit of a plainer paint job and no ball bearings. So we'll see how bushings do. Be right back for you. So just like the last time, I'm going to start out with the 1100 milliamps, break the car in a little bit, see all the adjustments I need to do before we put in the more punchy batteries. But as you can see, pretty much the exact same thing. Can't see, but there's bushings in there, some ball bearings. And this is one of these ports where the lights were in on the Corvette. I think it was that port. So you could add lights to this as well if you would like to. Ooh, this one feels really good right out. So, as one would guess, the car with the narrow front end was slightly more nimble, but a little less steady in the high-speed turns. So it never rolled. I don't think I got up to speed enough to roll it, but it seems pretty plain it. But it never rolled, but it did look like it was ready. It had a little body roll going. So if you could push it a little harder, maybe add a stronger motor, or maybe we put those other batteries in, I might be able to get this thing to roll over. But it was eating up those corners, killing them. I was really enjoying that. So definitely a little sharper in the tight corners, a little bit of body roll in the fast corners. So 17 on the Mini-z Ready Set with bushings, set bearings, and 1100 milliamp batteries. These are not like hobby grade batteries, but they last a hell of a long time, so they're great for practice. We will flip in the hobby grade batteries and see what we get. All right. So GTR with what is said on the packaging for the Speedhouse battery, 750 milliamps, even though I say 800 HV on the battery. It got a high of 20 kilometers per hour. As you saw, most of it was at 19. So, all things the same, ball bearings only cost you 1 kilometer per hour because the Corvette did it at max out at 21, though it seemed to be at 21 more often. This one maxed out at 20, and the 1,100 milliamp batteries was a 16, I believe. So big jump just between batteries, huge jump. And that's why these are hobby grade batteries. Like I said, the other ones are great for long practice sessions where you want to get a lot of time in. But when you're ready to race or practicing the race, you need to be running some hobby grade batteries to get this extra little turbo boost, as one would say. All right, let's see it on the track now. Now it's juiced up. See if I can keep it under control. See if I won't roll it in the corners at high speed. And check this out. These are the details I'm talking about. The windshield wipers, they actually have a little flex. They move. My other car, I have a RX-7. The back windshield wiper can go the full movement of the window. Definitely punchier. Definitely feeling that punch. All right, I have to play around with it a little bit more, but definitely hitting the hard turns really great. I'm not sure if the tires are peeling a little bit or it's just reacting a little bit more to the imperfections in the track, which are going to be in any track. Yeah, I can't tell if the tires are peeling though, so might need tire tape, or it could just be it hits the imperfections a little harder than the wider body. But otherwise than that, the body roll was very minimal. So really like the narrow. It's handling great in the track, and it didn't make that much of a difference with the ball bearings actually. But 1 kilometer per hour over the course of a race could be the difference if you were racing the exact same lines every time. Looking at 3 very different rear-wheel drive cars. So we're only missing 1 of the different types of motor layouts for rear-wheel drives. So first of all, let's appreciate this beautiful Porsche right here. And then let's appreciate this gorgeous paint job on this Audi. And then, if you like your race cars, nice classic Toyota right there. Here's an example of 2 modified cars. There's a lot of aluminum on these, but it's cool because now you can actually see how the motors sit. So this is my RX-7. Sits on that shell. And then I guess this is like a concept NSX type of racing car. It sits on that shell. Now, at first look, you would think they're about the same size, but then if you look at the wheelbases, you can clearly see that the NSX is longer like it should be. And then you look at how the motors are. So, now, I get it. Not all supercars have their motors in the rear. Not all compact cars have the motors in the front. Compact sports cars like Porsches obviously have their motors in the rear. But they try to keep them, it has to go by size and feel. So some kind of trade-off there. So yes, the Porsche is a rear motor narrow. Maybe it should be a mid-motor narrow. And if you want to mess around, if you can get it to fit under that shell, go for it. You might be able to twerk it to there, but probably not. So when we're looking at the rear motor, notice how far it sits back. That's the rear motor back there, which I would assume makes the car fishtail a little bit because it's sitting so far back. It's probably giving it a little bit of a different dynamic. While the mid motor is a lot further forward, very close to the body, which is going to give it a much more stable feel. So they're probably trying to emulate the fact that if you have front wheel drive and you're steering with your front wheels and your motor's up front, it's a very different feeling than if you have your motor in the front or the rear and you're driving with the back wheels. So they're trying to emulate that without doing front wheel drive because these cars are out way before they had a front wheel drive setup. Now they do have front wheel drive. You can try those out too because they have stuff like the Miata and the front wheel drive. I think they have the Mazda 3 in a front wheel drive, and they have a Civic in a front wheel drive, I believe. So a new dynamic has come along. But this is what we've had over the last, I don't know, several years, at least 5 years. So your street cars, your compact sports cars, your normal compact cars will ride on a rear motor, 90% of the time, rear motor vehicle. So let's take this Porsche, for example, and the GTR that we were just test driving. Let's look at those. So there's the GTR, rear motor, narrow. Porsche, rear motor, narrow. So these guys both are running a narrow front end. So, and how you can tell that is, sorry, that one has a tag on it, but right up here, you see that W? On this one, underneath my tag, it says N. So it is narrow, more narrow across the front. And you can pretty much see that there. That will also affect things like these tow bars I have here. So this is for a narrow, this one's for a wide. It's much wider out. I can't remember if it affects these arms. It's really hard to tell. They look the same to me right now, but I can't remember. It may affect those too, but that's the main thing it affects is this bar here and how wide this is up here. Still uses the same front wheels. When you get to the LM, I think you switch to wide wheels in the front as well. All right. So that is your narrow rear motor. Most rear motor cars are going to be narrow. You also have the HM. That is high motor. That's your subcompact cars, your Mini Coopers, your Lotus right here. I've had this in a little while ago. That motor, when I had that mounted, the motor was sitting up super high. Interestingly enough, it didn't roll. I don't know if that has something to do with the body of the Lotus is super low, so maybe that helped prevent it to roll. I thought it was going to roll a lot more than the other cars, but it did really well on that body. I just feel like if you put a Mini Cooper on there where it sits a little higher, it probably has a good chance of rolling. Now, before we move on from the HMs and the RMs, here's one of the confusing things. The all-wheel drives, as far as I know, all fit the RMs. But what's weird is if you have to be careful when you're buying a shell. Because if you buy one of these shells, like this, and it says all-wheel drive on it, the wheels are different because all-wheel drive wheels are slotted. Let me grab one for you real quick. All right, you should be able to see that one. The one to the left, this one, the black one, has a slot. And that's how the all-wheel drive cars have their wheels. This one is just round, and that's how the rear-wheel drive cars are. I'm assuming the front-wheel drives also use the exact same slotted one that the all-wheel drives ones use, but I haven't had one, so I don't know for sure. So, if you buy a shell that says all-wheel drive, you will get rims with that slot, and they will not fit on your rear-wheel drive car. You can go and get rims. They sell rims. They sell all kinds of, like, Volks and cool rims, so it's awesome how they get the licensing for stuff. And they have them in brass, and they have them in just plastic, so you can get rims. They're probably not brass, they're aluminum, I'm sorry. You can get the rims that will at least look like the car, but when they're building these shells and selling you a package, they usually try to sell you one that has the rims that would be found like on the certain car they're basing it off of. So if it's like some tuner's car, it's going to have whatever kind of rims they use if they can get the license for it, which is the really cool part about this. Also, heads up, this is kind of a collectibles game. These are licensed shells, and the licenses run out. So I don't know how long they have. Maybe, with one company they sign for 2 years, another company they sign for 3, another company they sign for 5 years. But when that time period's over, they cannot make any more of what they signed up for during that period. So this is the first Corvettes I think we've seen. I haven't seen a Corvette before that as far as I know. They've had some Ford products before. They've had Cobras and Shelbys and stuff like that. In their 1/10 scale, they have, I believe, Chargers. So I'm surprised they didn't bring the Charger down into the Mini-Z, but they didn't. But maybe we'll get Camaros since they have a Corvette. And, I mean, maybe Corvette said, we need lights in ours because we're Corvette. We're Chevy. We want lights in ours. We want ours to be special. So throw lights in there. This is the only car right now that has lights as far as I know. So that is one of the nuances between the rear motor and the all-wheel drive shells. Because the all-wheel drive shells, there's a lot of cool all-wheel drive shells because there are a lot of like street cars. There's Evos and there's all kinds of Subarus out there. So if you like compact street cars, there's some cool ones out there, and they have a lot of the crazy racing designs on them too. Olivia has the Gloomy Bear one, which is like an anime-inspired one. There's a I keep forgetting what the name of the Toyota 86, which we had as the Scion over here, or the that BRZ Subaru. In Japan, it's the Toyota 86. They have one that has like an anime-themed, like crazy decaled up one. And that's not just something they made up. It has Kyosho on it. It actually raced. So they sponsored a race team, then they made the car, which is pretty insane. All right, so then we get to these. Let's look at this one. This is the Audi now. Now we get to mid-motor, and that's this one. This is aluminum, but it's pretty much, this is the plastic version of it. This is the aluminum version of it. If you need to see it in plastic in real life, here's the Corvette. There it is. So that's the mid-motor, pretty much the same thing. I've got a little more going on with my rear suspension there. And this one is brushless. Brushless, the Ready Set version. And then, if you want point of reference again, back to the rear motor. Here's a rear motor modified with a aluminum motor mount. And here's the mid-motor modified with, or not modified at all, stock with plastic. Here's a question. Why do I want to go to aluminum? Well, it looks cool. No. This plastic can break. I have broken 2 of these in rear motor. and it broke back. Where is it at? It broke right here. So now, was that under normal circumstances? Probably not. I have jumped my car off of ramps. I have driven my car off of tables that are about 2.5 feet high. So I'm sure they didn't break under normal conditions. If you do dumb stuff, dumb things will happen. But you replace it with metal, you really don't have to worry about that. I feel like the metal is a little heavier though, so that is a disadvantage. The plastic probably is lighter because these cars get a little heavy when you start loading them up with metal. But that also probably lowers their center of gravity, keeping them tighter to the ground. So you'll be a little slower, but you'll have better traction because you're sticking to the ground because you're a little heavier. So your supercars, Lamborghinis, Audi R8s, Ferraris, the Enzo. Here's an Enzo right here. Bloop. Mid-motor, wide. Your McLarens, mid-motor, wide. So those are the supercars, usually run on mid-motor wides. Also, they have done some crazy, crazy shells over the years. This company's been around. Kyosho's been around for a really long time. But Mini-z's been around, I think they're probably going on 20 years now. It might have been like 2001. Been around for a while. Might have been late 90s. I'll try to figure that out later. But they have done all types of stuff. They have movie ones. So they've had a Batmobile. And they've had Mad Max's cars. And these cars go up in crazy price. So, I mean, unless you want to spend a lot of money, you can find them out there. It just costs a lot. But interesting shells like police Caprices are out there. And taxi cars on the Caprice. Those are rear-wheel drive mid-motor wides. And then you get to the race cars. So race car is LM, long motor wide. So, and I believe even your front tires might be wider. I am not sure. But I have a sneaking feeling that either the rear tires are wider than normal or the front tires are wide. But maybe it's just the rear tires are super wide. I think that's what it is. So I think the rear tires get super wide. So that's the LMs, and the weird bodies they put on those, they made minivans at one point. So there's an Odyssey out there if you ever want to beat somebody in a minivan. It'd be kind of funny, super sleeper. Also, more things to think about, offsets. So if you buy your car, either a shell, which comes with the wheels, so it comes with rubber and the wheel. These are perfectly fit to the bodies. They sit snug as hell. They go right up to the fender. Again, in the Ferrari, you can see how perfectly they fit. You need to know what that offset is, because if you want to put different rims on this or put this body on something else and not use those rims and blah, 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 those rims have an offset that fits that body. And sometimes on these ones that make them super snug, they're like in half offsets. I don't think they sell half offsets in individual rims. So they do sell them in 0, 1, 2, and 3. So you might be slightly off, but you want your wheel to pretty much fit the fender. But you can mess around with all kinds of setups. You can try to have your offsets as wide as they can be without it going past the fender, because I think you'll get some rubbing when you hit the walls and it'll be a bad thing. Or you can push your fronts in more narrow. Use a negative, not a negative, but if your car usually ran on one offset, you can run a 0 offset and have a really tight turning radius. So there's all types of things you can play with. There's aluminum rims. There's plastic rims. There's chrome rims. There's all kinds of stuff to mess around with. The sky's the limit. All right, so on that note, looking at all these pretty cars out here. So like I said, we will have 2 of those GTRs are rental cars. I'm going to try to print out like Hertz and Avis stickers to put on them so we know they're rental cars. It'd be the coolest rental cars ever, right? Maybe not ever, but I know people rent like Lambos. But rentals will be $5. So you can rent a car in store for $5. I only have 2, so you can't bring a bunch of people up here renting cars, but I only have 2. And then there will be fees for track time. So $5 for a rental with a $25 deposit. That deposit is so you don't drive around like an animal and destroy the car. Cars are tough, but they're not indestructible. And a shell costs $50, so we need some insurance that we're not going to have destroyed cars all over the place. Because some people think it's a little more fun to play bumper cars. Then track fees will be $2 for 1 hour. So if you rent a car, you're looking at $7 for an hour. That will include your batteries. $5 for 4 hours of track time. Then we will do a monthly rental of $12 for a month worth of unlimited track time. Then if you want even more savings and some perks, we're going to go $50 for 6 months of track time, and that gives you 10% off Mini-z accessories. This can't be combined with your 10% loyalty program, but it is a 10% off of accessories. And if you want the best savings of all times, $75 for a year. Plus, you get the 10% off accessories, and you get 10% off of one Ready to Run or Pro chassis if you would like. One of those a year, though, because I don't get much markup on those. I don't get killed on them. But you also get that nice 10% of accessories for the year at only $75. So that's obviously the best value. We will start putting in track time fees in effect starting this Saturday. And hopefully I'll figure out how to do a nice little rental system. And I have that up this Saturday as well. But yeah, come out. I personally won't be here this Saturday, unfortunately. And fortunately, I will be at KatoriCon. Local con at college, Rowan's Glassboro Community College. And I will be there. So if you want some anime or Gundam related paraphernalia, meet me there. If not, the track will be open and the gaming tables will be open at the store. So come on through, and hopefully we'll still have enough Gundams in the store to have you be able to shop the store too. But I will have to take some of them with me to the con. All right. And definitely look for any updates. We're going to start a Facebook group for GK Racing. Hopefully we'll get some merch going, some hats and T-shirts or something like that, some fun stuff. So we're evolving every year. We had just the Gundam Kitchen. Now it's GK Gaming. And now the newest on the block, GK Racing. So ever-evolving store. Thank goodness for the bigger space. Could have never done this in the old space. My track was like a third of this size, if that. So great to have a bigger store to be able to do bigger and better things. All right, talk to you guys later. Peace.